Okay, hello everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited that you could all be here. And we are going to be talking with a phenomenal woman. Her name is Mary Coop. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, terminal, and was given actually 6 months to live. And she is going to tell us her incredible story. And Mary, go right ahead and just kind of give us a little of the background of your diagnosis and that kind of thing.
Me? Can you hear me?
I can hear her.
Okay, yep, I can hear you. It's low on my end, but I think it might be my phone. I think everyone else can hear. If everyone could just type in the chat just to make sure. So just let us know you can hear Mary.
Speak when they're actually.
Stephanie, iPhone to everyone. I can hear. Yes, I could hear.
Okay.
All right. So you guys can hear me. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. You're right. I don't think they want to hear from me today.
I'm telling you, Satan did not want this to happen. I'm telling you.
It's crazy. Well, I don't feel like I'm centered on this thing very well either, but anyway, thank you for inviting me to speak tonight. And what I'm going to do is, and I wanted to ask you, how long do I have, Michelle?
I have it set for 2 hours, so.
Oh, well, I should be able to cover it before then.
Yeah.
My husband's trying to adjust everything so I don't look so, I don't used to.
There you go. You look beautiful.
Maybe I can scoot back, but then I don't know if they can hear me. Anyway, my story starts 10 years ago. It's hard to say that, and it's like, I can't believe it's been that long, but I was selling cars for CarMax. I never ever thought in a million years that I'd be selling cars, but I wanted to do something I'd never done before. So CarMax has you go for your annual physical. They pay for it. And so it was time for my physical. So I went and I felt fine. And the doctor came in and said, you need to see a specialist. And I said, really? Well, I feel fine. So they set me up for all kinds of tests and I went to see the specialist, and he walks in the room and says, it's metastasized in your pelvis. And I go, are you talking about cancer? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I feel perfectly fine. What if I choose to do nothing? He said, lady, you got less than a year to live. Call your children, and walked out of the room. I felt like somebody had walked in the room and sucker punched me and left. And I didn't want to look at my husband because I knew I would start crying. And so me being a Christian, I'm going, I don't accept or believe that, as he's leaving. And so we went to 5 more doctors because I wanted to make sure that this guy, I just couldn't believe it because I felt fine. And all of the 5 doctors told me the same thing. I had final stage multiple myeloma. It's a blood cancer that eats big holes in your bones. I had 36 holes in my bones and I had no symptoms at all. I mean, most people that has that many holes in their bones are in terrible pain. I had no pain at all. The only thing that had started to happen was my teeth were falling out. And then we found out the reason was because it was eating my jawbone and I lost all of my top teeth. So my grandchildren begged me. I mean, Grandma, Mom says you're going to die if you don't have treatment. Well, what they said was it could prolong my life. And I'd seen what prolonged life looked like, and I wasn't too excited about getting in that line. But I finally found a doctor that I could tolerate. I know that sounds terrible, but when you're looking for a cancer doctor, it's, you know, you just have so many things. If you want to do something natural and you've got a cancer doctor that does not believe in natural, it's really hard to find somebody that can at least listen to you. And we started treatment, and it was like twice a week with steroids. And I did this for 4 months. And at the end of the 4 months, they came in and said to me, you can't have any more chemo. You've bought yourself 3 months. And I thought, oh, for crying out loud, now I look bad and feel bad. And it only bought me 3 months. But they said, we got this latest, greatest drug. We want you to go to Menorah Hospital. We're going to have them give you a dose and send you home with 2 days worth. So I went. They never told me that I might ought to take somebody with me. So they give me this. I'm driving home on 435. For you that don't know, that's a huge interstate in Kansas City. And I went blind driving in the middle lane. And it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you know what traffic is like. I had to sit for 2 hours before I was able to see again. The next day, I go to get out of bed and I fall flat on the floor because neuropathy had hit my feet and legs to the point that I couldn't stand or walk. The third day, I wake up 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm having severe chest pains. And I thought, I've never read that piece of paper they give you telling you all the possible side effects. So I thought I better get it out and look at it. Second one on the list was a heart attack. And I thought, oh, good grief, these people are going to kill me. So I woke my husband up and I said, honey, I think that I'm getting ready to go home and be with Jesus. But I wanted to tell you, I think they've done something terribly wrong. So and he wanted to take me to the hospital. And I said, I am not going to die in the hospital. If I'm going to die, I'm going to do it right here. Well, the next morning I was still alive. So I called the pharmacy and I said, would you check my dose? Something's got to be wrong. I hear the guy walk away from the phone. And then I hear him say, oh my God, it's a wonder the doctor hasn't killed this woman. And I'm thinking, are they talking about me? And then this other guy chimes in and says, I've never known anybody right out of the gate on that big of a dose that's lived to talk about it. And I thought, oh my gosh. And then I heard the footsteps coming back to the phone. And all of a sudden he swore. He said the OSHIT word. And I thought, he thought the phone was muted. He knows I just heard everything they said. So I said, out of curiosity, how much am I supposed to be on? Oh, whatever the doctor told you. I said, well, let's play this game a little different. If there was 100 people in the room, how many would be on what dose? And he goes, well, you're on 25 milligram. There's 20, there's 15, there's 10, and there's 5. The majority would be on 5 and a handful on 10. And I thought, oh, good grief. Thank you very much. Hung up, called my oncologist and left a message. I'm not taking any more of this. If you want to see me, call me. Didn't call me. 2 weeks later, I go in to see the doctor. And first thing out of his mouth was, I hear you called the pharmacy. Yeah, I was having horrible side effects. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you a month off. By now, I'm down to 6 months left of my life. And I'm thinking, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me to give me 6 months off. So I left there really, really discouraged. And I began to pray. Probably, there's the kind of prayers you have at the mealtime, and there's the kind you tuck your kids in with. But then you have these prayers that are those kind that are real prayers, the kind that you really bare your soul. And for 5 days, I just said, Lord, I really need to find something natural to heal my body or I'm done. And on day 5, I had a miracle happen. And the reason I say it was a miracle, because 3 years earlier, I was driving home from CarMax, and you know how we're creatures of habit. If we go to church, we park in the same spot, we sit in the same pew. If we go to work, we drive the exact same route. We're just creatures of habit. Well, all of a sudden, I was driving home, and I was on the wrong road. And I thought, why am I on this road? I never come this way. Well, when I was in my 20s, I had that happen to me. And when I got home, turned the TV on, and where I should have been, there'd been a fatality car wreck. And so when this happened, I'm just freaking out. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, why am I on this road? And I don't know how to explain it to people, especially if you have never had an experience like this, because this was something I had never experienced. It was like the Lord spoke to every fiber in my being and told me he wanted me to go to the Bannister Home Depot. You guys, Bannister Home Depot is in the hood. It is a horrible area of town. I worked for Home Depot for 10 years. I helped open that store. I saw guns in that store 3 times. One of them was a rolling gun battle. I saw attempted rape in broad daylight. I saw people come in to buy a bucket of paint and leave and their car was stolen right out of the parking lot. And so I'm thinking, this is not a good idea. This is Friday night at 7 o'clock. Lord, do you realize how bad an area this is? I don't think my husband's going to be happy about me going there. As I'm going in the store arguing with him, I got in there and I said, okay, here I am. Am I supposed to pray with somebody, pray for somebody? What am I supposed to do? So I'm walking up and down the aisles of Home Depot praying. I get back to the millwork desk. This guy in an orange apron that I'd never seen before in my life walked around the corner, and I knew that I was supposed to talk to him. So I struck up a conversation, found out he and his wife were missionaries with a group called Youth with a Mission. Our youngest daughter, Amy, has been a missionary now for 25 years. And 8 of those years, she was with Youth with a Mission. They happen to know some of the same people. And so for an hour and a half on a Friday night, how many of you ever been to a Home Depot on a Friday night? It is sheer madness. You can't find anybody to help you. You can't find anybody that knows anything. And it's just crazy. Well, here we are. He sits there and talks to me for an hour and a half, and not one single person comes up and bothers us. And he was telling me one Jesus story right after another. I got in the car and I said, what on earth was that? So fast forward 3 years, on day 5 of me saying, Lord, I really need a natural product to heal my broken body. My phone rings and this guy goes, is this Mary Coop? And I said, yes. He goes, well, you probably don't remember me, but this is Mark. And I go, you're the guy from Home Depot. And he said, yeah. He said, my wife and I can't get you off our minds. Are you all right? I said, no, I'm not. I've got final stage multi-myeloma cancer, and I'm down to the last 6 months of my life. And he said, you know, my mother-in-law, she a year ago found an all-natural product that totally changed her life. I said, have her call me. So she called me and asked me if she could take me to lunch. Now you got to realize, I want to draw a picture for you. Everything had went wrong that week. The IRS had froze all of our bank accounts because they felt like we owed them money. I had no teeth and I had no hair, and it was just a nightmare. And so I said to her, if you don't mind me going to dinner with you with no hair, no teeth, and no money, I'll go with you. And she says, it'll be my treat. And so we went to Applebee's, and I'll never forget this. She starts telling me her story, and her story was so incredible. She said that she had found this product because she was getting lost. She couldn't find her way home sometimes, and she had terrible back pains. And one day, a year earlier, a doctor in Lee Summit, which is a nearby town, called her and said, I understand that you're writing a book on children with ADHD, autism, and Asperger's, and nutrition. I was wondering if you could come watch an ABC primetime investigative report on this incredible product, because I think you're going to want to put it in your book. So she said, well, I'm on my way. So she watched this, and she said she immediately thought, I've got to have this. So she bought a bottle. She said, Mary, 3 weeks later, I woke up and I had clarity of mind. My back had quit hurting. And she thought, wow, I wonder if it's that yellow pill I'm taking. So she said that my aha moment came through my cousin, who also he was 2 years older than her. She was 67 and he was going on 70. And he said, Jackie, I called for prayers. I've been diagnosed with Parkinson's and I'm doing terrible. And she goes, ask your doctor if you can take this pill that I'm taking. It's amazing. So she gave him the information. The doctor goes, oh, no, 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 no. We don't want you on anything natural. We want to be in charge here. And so they watched this man go from a cane to a walker to a wheelchair in 6 months. He could no longer hold his head up. He drooled all over himself. And his wife said to him one day, boy, your doctor's doing you no favors. Have you looked in the mirror lately? And he nodded. She said, I think you should try what your cousin Jackie is on. It's all natural. And he nodded. So he started taking the product. 3 months later, Jackie and her husband were flying home from Nepal, where they'd been on a mission trip. And they had a 5-hour layover in Atlanta, Georgia, where her cousin lived. So she called and said, can we stop by? And she said, we'll fix your bite to eat. We'd love to see you. So she said, Mary, when I knocked on the door, this is when I had this aha moment. When the door flew open, there stood her cousin, no cane, no walker, no wheelchair, and he starts marching. And she goes, what happened to you? He goes, it's you and that yellow pill. She goes, you've got to be kidding me. He goes, no. And she goes, well, are you going to come in and eat with us? He goes, no, I'm back doing prison ministry full time. Went out, got in his car and drove off. And she said,
Amen.
I stood there thinking, oh my goodness. But she says, Mary, this next story's for you. She said, when we got home from Nepal, the phone was ringing. It was my old pastor from Atlanta. And he said, Jackie, I called for prayers. I have final stage throat cancer and they have nothing, no hope for me. She said, I'm mailing you these yellow pills, take them. He goes, okay, I have no reason not to. So 3 months later, the oncologist called him and said, listen, I've been thinking about you and I've decided my course of action for you is going to be extreme radiation. It will destroy your voice box. It will destroy your voice cords. But I think we can save your life. If you're a minister, you need to speak. And so he was really discouraged, but he went in to have an ultrasound so they'd know where to hit him with this radiation. She comes back in the room and she goes, what have you been doing? He goes, is it worse? She goes, no, here's your picture from 2 months ago. See how thick the cancer is? Here's your picture today. I can't find any cancer at all. What are you doing? He goes, oh, she said, this friend of mine from Kansas City sent me these yellow pills. And he goes, well, what are they? The doctor was a lady. She goes, well, what are they? And he goes, I don't know. She goes, you're taking pills, you don't even know what they are. He goes, whoa, wait a minute. You offered me no hope at all, remember? And she goes, yeah. Well, get me as much information as possible because I want to research it. I want you to stay on it for 30 days. I want you back in here in 30 days. And we're going to run every lab test, blood test known to man. I want to know what is going on in your body. Came back in 30 days. They could not find any cancer at all. That's been 11 years ago. And because he was one of the first to get this. And he'd never had one chemo treatment or one radiation treatment, and he is still cancer-free to this day. So
Wow.
I left that meeting and I was pumped. I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I don't have to die. And so I went to church that night, and it was the Wednesday before Easter, and we decided to clean the nursery because you know how you get all these, I call them seasonal Christians. They only come at Christmas and Easter. And we're sitting on the floor, wiping toys, throwing away broken toys, and I'm telling everybody this story. And my pastor goes, Mary, I have sugar diabetes and high blood pressure. I want to know about this product. His brother says, I got final stage melanoma cancer. I want to know about this product. Somebody else had rheumatoid arthritis. Somebody else had hepatitis. Somebody else had migraines. And I'm thinking, good Lord, the whole place is falling apart. We were a small church. And I said, I barely know this woman. I've had lunch with her once. And they said, well, call her, see if she'll come. So I called her and I said, Jackie, everybody wants you to come and tell us about this product. And she goes, when? And I said, tomorrow. And she goes, I have to call you back. She came over, she showed the ABC primetime. She talked about how the American Heart Association had paid for 2 studies. The first study proved it reduced heart disease by 50%. The second study proved it reduced scarring 100%. And within that study, it proved it got rid of fibrosis in the arteries. And I thought, this is amazing. And at the time, there were 11 peer-reviewed studies. Now I think there's 26.
There's actually 30 now.
But are they on PubMed already?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So anyway, I'm thinking, I got to buy a bottle of this. But I was broke because remember the IRS had froze our money. And our house payment was due and we had no way to come up with our house payment money. And are most of the people on here Christians? I don't want to offend anybody.
It won't, don't worry about that.
Well, a little side story. The week before this all came about, my husband came to me and he said, honey, I don't know how to tell you this, but our house payment's due next week. When you were really, really sick, we had to bundle a house payment into threes with the promise we'd never be late on a house payment again, or they were going to start, to take our home away from us. And he says, we don't have any money. And I thought, oh my gosh, this, they tell you when you got cancer, don't get stressed out about anything. Well, that's very stressful. We'd lived here 17 years. And so I went out into my water garden area and I said, God, I don't know anybody that has $1,000 that I could even borrow, but you know everything and everybody. So would you just take care of it for me? The next morning, my phone's ringing. This friend of mine that lived in Lawrence, Kansas, which is over an hour away, she says, Mary, are you all right? I said, well, I still got cancer, but I'm okay today. And she says, well, I had the weirdest thing happen last night. She said, first of all, have I ever told you about my Jesus account? I said, no. She goes, well, I have an account where my husband and I just throw money into it. And then if little kids need shoes or little kids need clothes or people need groceries or people need utilities, we have money and we use it to pay it. She said, I was on my way home from the grocery store and she said, I heard the Lord speak to me, telling me that I needed to go get $1,000 to give to Mary Coop. And I started crying because I hadn't told anybody and I knew that God had answered my prayer. So that's just a little side note that most people never get to hear. But to me, it was like, wow. So anyway,
Incredible.
I was really excited, but I didn't have any money. And so I'm looking around the room thinking, I got to sell something. My husband's an art teacher and he's an excellent artist. And so we've got a lot of original pictures. So I'm going to sell something. I got to, I only needed $50, but if you're broke, you're broke. And she goes, well, Mary doesn't know, but there's a tremendous business here. And I'm thinking, has this woman lost her loving mind? Why would anybody want to go into business with someone with no teeth, no hair, and no money? And I'm going, oh no, I just want to take the product. I'm not interested in a business. And she goes, well, if you pre-sell these like Girl Scout cookies, you only need 13 bottles and you'd have enough to be a distributor. And I'm thinking, what is she seeing me? And so she said, how many are you going to buy bottles tonight? Guess what? There were exactly 13 people buying bottles. And so I said, okay, sign my husband up. I got to get well. She gave me a bottle that night. On day 3, my chemo fog lifted. On day 5, my neuropathy in my legs went away. On day 8, the neuropathy in my feet went away. I felt amazing. I was so excited. I still looked bad, but I felt good. And so at 5 months, I go in to see the doctor. And the old doctor had retired, and the new doctor is looking at me, looking at my blood work, looking at me, looking at my blood work. And he goes, why aren't we doing a stem cell transplant on you? And I said, well, I was told I'm not a candidate. And he kept reading and he goes, you're right. You're not a candidate. You have 36 major holes in your bones. Some of the holes in my bones were this big, if you put your pointer and your thumb together. So they couldn't figure out why I wasn't in excruciating pain, but I wasn't. And he said, you're right. It would take 2.5 years for these holes to heal to the point that I could recommend you to KU for a stem cell, and you've only got a few months left. But I've never seen blood work on somebody in final stage cancer look like yours. I'm going to order a skeletal x-ray. Do not get your hopes up. Every hole in my body had healed in 5
Wow.
I was so excited. So I was able to go through this. It's a 120-day fight for your life. It is one of the hardest things I have ever lived through. But at the end of that tunnel, all of those people that came and bought bottles had all become distributors because they all had amazing stories. My pastor went from 6 prescription drugs to a half a pill. His sugar diabetes normalized, his high blood pressure normalized, his cholesterol had dropped. His brother was supposed to have 6 months left to live. This is 9 years ago, he's still in remission. The person that had rheumatoid arthritis was so bad, he quit his job at Home Depot, filed for total disability. After he'd been on this for 6 weeks, he went back to construction work and worked construction until about 6 months ago when he retired. The person that had hepatitis, they couldn't find it anymore, so they decided they made a mistake. The person that had migraines is one of my very best friends, and I've been friends with her for years and years. She has not had a migraine for 10 years. And, these are things that you think, people go, well, that was really a coincidence, wasn't it? And it's like, oh, good grief. But we are so excited because I was one of the few people, well, I shouldn't say few people, I got to meet the scientists that developed this. And it was just amazing. And, my husband is 76. I am almost 70. Neither one of us is on a single prescription. We both, last time I had my annual physical, the nurse came in and she goes, Mrs. Coop, we need to get some more blood. And I said, I gave you 5 vials last week. What are you doing with my blood? She goes, well, I'm embarrassed to say this, but we think we got it mixed up with a 20-year-old, so we threw it away. And I said, do not throw my blood away. That was my blood. And sure enough, my blood came back that of a 20-year-old, and I couldn't believe it. And I used to have big knots on my hands from arthritis, and my hands hurt all the time. One day I was looking at my hands and I screamed, and my husband goes, what's wrong? And I go, my arthritic bumps are gone. All of them are gone. And my knees used to hurt and my ankles used to hurt because when I was in high school, I played basketball. I had a scholarship to play college ball. And every time I would get hurt, they would tape me up and throw me back out there. So my ankles and my knees suffered from it when I hit my 40s. So one day I realized my ankles and knees didn't hurt anymore. And the thing that happened with my husband, are we still okay on time, Michelle?
Oh yeah, we're good.
My husband has a double master's degree. He's a very intellectual. He's a real intellectual geek. But after he'd been on this for a while, of course, he had to research everything. He came home one day freaked out of his mind because he talked to a stranger. And I thought, I talk to strangers all the time. This is not a big deal. But he was that guy that left church, didn't talk to anybody. He didn't like to be hugged or touched. And so he came home and he said, do you think that girl thought I was hitting on her? And I go, I don't know. How old was this person? Oh, probably 20. And I go, no, she did not think you were hitting on her. You're almost 70 years old. What's wrong with you? He goes, I don't know. So we called Jackie, the one that wrote the book, and she said, Galen, go to Harvard website, go to Cambridge, take the test for Asperger's. Well, he scored like 80%. And we'd never heard of Asperger's because when we were in school, they didn't test you for learning disabilities. They just threw you over in the corner and figured you were weird. And so the next thing, she said, take it. So he thought, well, we didn't really know what Asperger's was. Well, at 9 months of him being on this product, he stands up in a meeting and I'm freaking out because if you know anybody that has autism or Asperger's, they can say inappropriate things at inappropriate times. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's he going to say? And he said, I had something happen this week that I've never had happen in my entire life. He said, my wife looked at me and for the very first time, I could tell that she loved me. We had been married 42 years at that time. And I'm thinking, I started crying because I thought, how have we stayed married? I mean, right. If he can just now see that I love him by an expression, then I learned that day people with Asperger's cannot read facial expressions. They don't know if you're laughing at them or with them. And it has explained so much. Our whole lives have changed. I tell people, I got set free from cancer and I got a new husband out of the whole deal because we've been married 51 years now, but he now enjoys talking to anybody and everybody. I have to drag him out of church because he talks so long. He hugs people now. He never used to ever hug anybody. And so this product does so many things. And the reason is because when you take it within 30 minutes, it rings the doorbell to every cell in your body and either upregulates something you're not making enough of or downregulates something you're making too much of. So it fine tunes your genome every single day. And
Mhm.
it's, when you've got oxidative stress is linked to over 400 diseases. And this product, one of the things it does is reduces oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. So it's a win-win situation. And so you need to tell people, do you want to age fast or slow? Do you want to hurt? Because trust me, you guys all look pretty young, but the older you get, the more things start creeping up on you. Your knees hurt, your ankles hurt, and I am just so blessed that here we are at 70 and 76, and we have absolutely no health problems. I've got perfect blood pressure, perfect cholesterol, perfect sugar, everything. So I feel, yeah, and he says a perfect husband.
Aw,
He's
and that's the thing. Does he want to come on and say hi?
Yeah, he can scoot over here.
Yeah, where's my picture of my writing about coming in?
I don't know. I'm going to show you something if I can. He's looking for something. Get down.
Okay. But that's the thing, oxidative stress, there's no escaping it. You could be as healthy as you think you possibly could be, but the fact of the matter is there is no escaping it. It will bombard your body.
If you wake up breathing, you've made over, I think it's so many sextillions each day. I'm going to show you this. I don't know if you can see it or not. Can you see this picture?
Yes.
That was me when I found this product.
Oh, wow.
So when people say to me, I don't know why, how do you know it was that product? Well, nothing else was working. So.
And Mary, how long until you got tested and knew you were cancer free? How long after?
Was it 6 weeks after I had my stem cell?
The testing for that takes several tests.
Well, when I went after my stem cell at 6 weeks after it, oh, you're really sick. I mean, really sick. But I went in and they wanted to put me on a daily dose of chemo the rest of my life. And
oh my God.
No, I was not going to do that. And the doctor got really, really mad. And he said, gee, I know who you're talking to. I'm the second leading oncologist in the world. And I thought of all these things I could have said, like, well, I'd like to know who number one is because I'm really not thinking much about you right now. But I didn't say that. And so my husband stepped between me and him because he could see that I was getting really angry. And he said to me, honey, you don't have to take the stuff. Just don't argue with him. Just don't take it. So when I went back in for my checkup, he comes waltzing in and he's all, well, you ought to be excited because your blood work came back perfect. I've never seen blood work as perfect as yours. And I said, before you take one more step, I want you to know I haven't taken one single one of your stupid pills and I'm not going to. And he got really mad. He turned around, he said to the nurse, get her another doctor. I don't ever want to see her again. And I thought, well, I don't.
He probably should have asked you what you were doing.
Well, since then he has. Better see who's calling. But it's kind of amazing that I wanted to tell you when my doctor retired, my cancer doctor, the one that I liked, he said to me, Mary, I just have to ask you, are you still taking that yellow pill? And I said, yes. And he goes, I said, why? And he goes, well, I could never tell you this before because I worked for the hospital. But he says, now that I'm retired, I wanted to tell you all the 6 people that you went through the stem cell transplant with are all dead. You're the only one that's alive. You're the only one that's cancer free. So he said, if I were you, I would continue to take that yellow pill. So
yeah, absolutely.
Very, very, very blessed. My husband wants to say something. I don't know where he went, but he had something he wanted to share with you. So he's coming back.
Okay.
Oh, it was Carly called me and talked to her.
All right.
And I'm so happy that you were an advocate for yourself.
Yes. I think it's called being stubborn and belligerent at times, but you have to.
That's good. That's a good thing. It saved your life.
In a little more complete answer to your question about when she found out she was cancer free, she was in stage 3, which is like stage 4 in any other kind of cancer. There's only 3 stages in multi-myeloma. Stages is not how bad a cancer is. Stages is what the cancer is actually doing. And in stage 1 and 2, the cancer is still doing oxidative processes to make its energy in what they call the redox cycle. And in stage 3 and 4, it has pretty much switched over to anaerobic processes
Mhm.
to protect the cell from the oxidative stress that it is creating in itself. If something has gone wrong in a cancer cell and in its way it handles oxygen, and so since it's gone so wrong, and if the cell can't repair itself, then it goes anaerobic. And so at first, if you're in stage 3 or 4, you pretty much have to have a chemo or a chemical that acts like a chemo, maybe from a natural source, but you have to have something that has a pathway to reverse what the cell, to kill the cell. And what you're doing is trying to wake up the apoptotic genes, p53 and p38. And if they agree that the cell is bad, it'll kill the cell. Just before that period, the cell has shut off its aerobic processes and is trying to survive on anaerobic processes, which is fermentation. That's why it takes 5 times the sugar to produce the same amount of energy in a cancer cell. But anyway, after she had the chemo and the stem cell transplant, she went for 4 years without any signs of cancer, and then it started creeping up pretty fast. And so at that point, I had been studying, what's that called? Monoclonal antibodies, which has a different approach to get rid of the cancer. And so she took the monoclonal antibody for how long?
It was only like a few weeks, and it was
2 or 3 weeks, along with Protandim. And
That's what the word.
didn't mean to say that. And she didn't fill me in here
Okay.
before I sat down here. I had a group of all Life Vantage people. But anyway, she stayed on the product, and she didn't have any cancer after that, and it's been 6 years now with
So it's been 10 years ago.
with absolutely zero cancer cells being able to be found at all.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
So that's pretty exciting. But at the same time, I knew I had prostate cancer, and 3 years ago, I finally started taking care of it. They thought the outcome would be much different. I had 85% of my prostate cells were cancerous, and it had not spread anywhere, which really surprised them because I'd put it off for 7 years. And so I had clean test Bell Health ever since then. And so that is pretty fantastic.
And most people don't realize that happened with Galen, because when I was going through mine, it was life threatening, and we didn't have the strength, the energy, or the money to have both of us fighting at the same time. So
Yeah.
I appreciate
Wow.
the fact that he cared enough about me. And the one thing I would say to anybody, you learn a lot about your spouse when you're going through something like this. My husband was so incredibly good to me and cared for me. And I just think that it makes all the difference in the world. So
it's probably a good thing it came out of Asperger's first, within 9 weeks.
I'm trying to read what that lady wrote. I didn't see it.
That's incredible. I mean, it is just changing
She's just saying how
everyone's
Yeah,
life.
you look great.
Yeah.
No, I would never have said anything like that 10 years ago. Because I would have been too self-conscious, and I would not have known how to respond to that.
Yeah.
I would not have known that my face could turn it into a joke, that everybody would think, just him.
You never know what he's going to say or do now. It's crazy.
Well, that hasn't changed.
No, I know. I mean now, but
That's what I mean.
anyway,
Um,
we really appreciate the opportunity to talk. Does anybody have any questions at all before we?
While you're thinking of those, I'm working on a book called Asperger's from the Inside Out. And the main thing that has caused Asperger's to go away, of course, by NRF2 activation, is the upregulation of glutathione. Because glutathione is
Right.
what makes it so that both sides of your brain can communicate with each other. And the interesting thing is the day that I came out of Asperger's and was able to recognize faces, I didn't have to learn all those face expressions. They were stored, I just couldn't access them.
Wow.
And so that's been the process for the last nearly 10 years now of discovering what was already there and then learning how to apply it. Because
Right.
how do I apply this fact that I can see what your face is telling me? They didn't teach me how to necessarily respond to what I could see.
Right.
But anyway, I tell the story coming out a little different than Mary does. But it'll be in my book, Asperger's from the Inside Out.
Anyway,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, thank you, for having us. We got home late, so we haven't really had a chance, and we need to get our some stuff done so we can go to bed here pretty soon. We have
She
to
needs
get-
to
Okay,
get
yeah, no
organized to
problem.
find out for tomorrow.
yeah, I have to get him organized.
I really appreciate you guys taking the time and doing this because I know there's so many people out there that need help, and
Yes.
you know, we can share this with them, and you know, it's good to talk to people that have actually experienced it. I mean, we have so many testimonies
Yes.
within this company that it would just blow your mind, you know, if you have no idea. So it's good. Mary's testimony was one of the very first ones I watched when I started looking into this. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this woman, what a blessing. And so, you know, I'm honored that you would take the time out and let me do this with you, because it's really just very inspiring.
Well, thank you for having us. And maybe we can figure out this live Facebook thing next time.
Yes,
I don't
you know what? I'm going to train you. I'm going to train you how
I
to
would
get
love that.
social media savvy.
Yeah, because if you don't, I'm gonna be on your doorstep one of these days going, okay, here I am. She's not answering. She must be in shock. Are you frozen? I think she's frozen. My grandma has multimyeloma. Somebody's grandma has multimyeloma. Tell that person that I would be more than happy to talk to her grandmother. Michelle is frozen. She said, thank you.
She must have turned off.
I don't think so.
Michelle, are you there?
She is. Yeah, we're here.
No, she said, Michelle, are you there?
There it is. We're going to try and get. And she may have some questions for you. Okay.
All right. Well,
Okay, I don't know what happened to Michelle.
I know she's gone. Oh,
Um,
well, tell her if you know her, and maybe she'll call me, that I'll be glad to talk to that person, and we'd be glad to do this again sometime.
yeah, that's really weird. I don't see Michelle. I can't hear Michelle. This is Marianne Watson, Mary. I'm actually Michelle's sponsor, and I'm directly under Jackie.
You're Michelle's enroller.
Yeah, I'm Marianne Watson.
Hi. She told me
Hi.
who you were.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you yet, but I'm directly under Jackie. And I saw your testimony too, so I was very excited that Michelle was going to be interviewing you today.
I don't know how old.
Oh, you want to know how old my husband is? He's 76.
Yeah, you look amazing for 76.
Oh, you're pumping
you.
his head up.
They both do. They both
Yeah,
look
and they
amazing.
both, I mean, seriously.
There you
how
are,
old
Michelle. You were gone for a while.
70?
I don't know what happened. I thought it disconnected, but I got back on. Thank God. I'm like, oh my God, it's not gonna record.
I thought maybe you were put in jail again.
I know, really.
Anyway,
That was so funny.
I wanted to tell you, somebody put that their grandmother had multiple myeloma, and I just wanted you to know I'll be glad to talk to that person. And if you want us to do this again for you, just let us know and we'll figure out a way to do it, okay?
Yeah, I would love to. Absolutely. Yeah. And just for everybody that is on or watches this video in the future, please get back to the person that invited you to watch this video, and they can get you all the information that you need to get started and get healthy.
Yes. Thank you. We're going to leave now.
Okay, Mary. Thank you
All
guys
right.
so much.
Thank you.
I can't figure out how to turn that.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So there's a thing that says end. Right there.